This explains pretty much everything. Either because of the time he nearly drowned, or because of the traffic accident, my brother's memory was damaged. His memory probably came back eventually, however by that time I had already set foot into my new life as Kotobuki Yukari. Only a handful of people, including President Okanogi, knew where I was. Even if my brother wanted to contact me, there was a very good chance that he wouldn't be able to. Ironically, the name I abandoned when I decided to live in the future delayed my reunion with my brother for so long. In that sense, I am responsible. I did it to myself. However, I'm sure I received the message that my brother sent me. That message was, I realized that the forger who claimed to have reached the truth was actually Hachiro Toyo. Then I requested a meeting with her through the publishing company to question her about why she was so sure she'd reached the truth. However, I wasn't granted a meeting. In the end, I heard nothing from them, and it was taken all these decades just to meet Hachiro Toyo. If the publishing company had only passed my message on, we could have been reunited so much sooner. However, at that time, I was just a bourgeois girl who liked to throw money around. Why would they pass on my message when I just barged in with no introduction and demanded to meet the famous and popular Hachiro Toyo? We probably crossed paths several times. If just one of those had worked out, if we had been able to meet, just how much would my life have changed? But this was fate. God had decided that a few decades were needed before a sibling reunion, and during that time my brother became one half of a mystery novelist. I became a writer of adventure novels for children. You could say that we achieved success in society. My brother and I were reunited after becoming successful. Now I could do nothing but thank God for bringing about this miracle. Maybe it was God's will that when we reunited after achieving success as novelists. Back then I was nameless, so I never got through to you. We've met now because we've both become famous as authors. I think all of this was God's will. At the time, we heard through the publishing company that you wanted to have an interview with us. They said that a fan who discovered true identity wanted to talk to her. You must have had dozens of fans dying for an interview. You couldn't possibly go to meet all of them. No. They let us know that your name was Ushiromiya Angie. At the time, I had already realized that Toya's true name was Ushiromiya Battler, so I thought you should be given a chance to meet him. I refused. My brother said that to me. What did you say? I refused because I didn't want to meet you. Once more, my brother spoke clearly. I was completely confused. I could only sit there in shock and silence, waiting for the words that were sure to follow. I believe I already mentioned that Toya suffered from memory loss, and then, one day, why did you refuse when you knew it was me? I cut through Kuko's words, and questioned him directly. What reason could my brother have for rejecting me? I couldn't think of anything. That unpleasant emotion brought up long-forgotten feelings of anger inside me. You must have known that your little sister was living all alone, being crushed by loneliness. So why? Why did you refuse to meet me? My brother hung his head. It seemed more like he was lost for words than apologetic. There was nothing shy about his appearance, and I questioned him again in an even louder voice. When I asked for an appointment with Hachiro Toyo, who was already famous as a forger, why did Ikukukoro's forgeries reach the truth? It's obvious. My brother Ushiromiya Battler explained to her what happened on the island in detail, so the appearance of Ikuko proves that my brother's memory had returned. Therefore, he can't excuse himself by saying that he didn't remember me. In fact, in reality, he didn't try to make excuses. On the contrary, he openly said that he refused to meet me, even though he knew who I was. Looking back, I regret what I did. You regret it? Did you ever try thinking about how I felt? For decades, for most of my life, do you realize what feelings I had to live with? Various emotions swirled inside of me. I realized that I wasn't in control of them anymore. I could only moan to prevent myself from saying something I'd regret. I feel deeply ashamed for doing something so cruel to you. That's why I've searched for you ever since then. For your sake and for mine, I should have met you much earlier. Then why wouldn't you meet me then? Miss Kotobuki, as I said before, his memory was damaged. No, perhaps I should say that his brain was damaged. It's an after effect of the accident. But his memory came back just the same, didn't it? Yes, his memory came back. However, that did not remove the after effects of the damage. I have Ushiromiya Battler's memories. However, because of the damage to my brain, I can't think of those as my own. Can't think of those as your own. Yes. It's true that my memory of my escape from the island is still hazy. However, I've remembered almost everything else, like how those pink hair ornaments of yours that you treasure so much were something I won for you at the game corner in that amusement park. Yes, that's right. They're a treasure from when I was a child. I still keep them with me in my handbag. I remember a lot more besides that. I remember you giving Mom trouble because you hated eating seaweed. I remember that you tried to move it to my plate and trick her. And if you remember that much, then why can't you think of those memories as your own? That's the result of the damage to my brain. I've been to several hospitals, but it didn't do anything good. You probably can't understand it. You can't know how painful it is to have your mind suddenly filled with the memories of a man you don't know. He was terrified that he wasn't himself anymore. His mind was filled with the memories of a man he didn't recognize, and they threatened to crush and overwhelm him. They must have been his own lost memories, however his brain couldn't accept those as his own. Those days were painful, terrifying. It felt like my mind was being invaded. Tonight, when I turn off the lights and go to sleep, maybe I will never wake up again. Maybe a different man will wake up tomorrow morning and start living life in my body. I can't count the nights that this terror tormented me. Several times he tried to convince himself that they were his real memories. He told himself that he was Ushiromi Battler over and over again. But nothing worked. I am me, Hashijo Toya. No matter how much Ushiromi Battler's memories flow into my mind, to me they're the memories of another person. I couldn't accept Ushiromi Battler. As Ushiromi Battler said this, he hung his head and his eyes turned red. Then, one day when he was caught between himself and the other self he couldn't accept, he had a fit. Fortunately, his life was spared, but the after effects forced him to spend his life in a wheelchair. You mean he... Now I know why he showed up in that wheelchair, and now I know why he refused to meet with me. He was afraid that I would call him Big Brother. He was terrified of meeting me, fearful that the part of himself that wasn't him would grow still further in his mind. Even so, he fought. He felt that since Ushiromi Battler was inside him, it was his responsibility to meet you. Thinking that, he kept on fighting in the space between his two selves, and then he had a fit. After something like that, it was only natural that Ikuku would tell him that he didn't need to remember Ushiromi Battler anymore. Bit by bit, he tried to forget that he was once Ushiromi Battler. Doctor's instructions and medication. With that and Ikuku's diligent care, he slowly began to regain his peace of mind. Even so, I thought I would have to meet you sooner or later. To be honest, I didn't get a wink of sleep last night. I was scared of meeting you. If I met you, would I die? Yes, I was afraid. However, here I am talking to you normally. That's why I regret what I did. If only I could have met with you earlier. You and the Ushiromi Battler inside of me might not have had to suffer for all those years. Just thinking that makes me feel so sorry. As the one who was once Ushiromi Battler said this, he broke down crying. I already understood, so it really was true. Ushiromi Battler did die that day. After all, didn't the witches say that he was dead so often with the red truth? How pathetic for the witch of resurrection, the witch of future who swore that everyone would be together always. Toya-san, please raise your head. Miss Kotobuki.